What
There's a
is
lie.
up, internet land? Here we go. How are you doing tonight, Miss Rubinix? Rubix. I'm sorry, Rubinix.
Oh, it's okay. People have messed up my name so many times in the past, you don't even know. So I changed it times.
How is your
I'm
night
doing
going?
great. How about you?
Life is beautiful. For those that are brand new with us, this is our brand new show, Kyber Cave After Dark. Woo-woo. Oh, it's supposed to be Kyber Cave After Dark. You have to whisper that after dark part. For those that may have been with us last week, you may recognize our fabulous guest, Miss Rubik's Q Arcana. She is with us here tonight to talk about our topic and discussion. And we have a couple more people that are going to be popping in, but I know we have some internet connections right now. So it may be just you and I right now.
That's fine. It's fine. Last time I showed up as the Black Cat from Marvel. This time I'm the Catwoman from DC.
I know.
Clearly, I have a thing.
You're showing all sides. You're showing that you no bias towards any one group.
Not at all.
And I think that's a really good place to start, because that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight is bias in movies. There's a term that a lot of people know about, and I'm finding out tonight that some people have never heard of this term, but it is stay woke, go broke. Have you ever heard of that term before, Rubik's?
Yes, I have. I have heard this term.
What does it mean to you?
So I've heard it just from different YouTubers out there. I listen to a lot of different dialogues from different sides. I do like to watch a number of movie reviewers, a number of TV show reviewers. There's a lot of different content creators out there, and I have heard them say those things from time to time. And I will say it seems to be more of a current day critique about a lot of the soft reboots that we've been seeing. Mm-hmm. Or a lot of these, new, we're going to take an old entity or franchise from the 80s, but now we're going to make it with, all of the ideology in play and think that that's just going to instantly be a hit. And then as soon as it doesn't sell as well as they thought it would, suddenly it's a problem. Oh, it's, society's issue. They just don't like female leads, which I just would have to say, bitchware, because did you not see Tomb Raider? Did you not see
Wonder Woman?
The movies of Wonder Woman? I mean, there's been plenty of examples of either people of color or women or people with disabilities being featured in a number of things, gay people, straight people, whatever. And a lot of times people don't remember that actually did take place before. Right. One of my favorite things about, when Black Panther first came out, everyone's like, oh my God, we finally have a black superhero. I'm like, did y'all forget that Blade had a trilogy?
Right. Technically the first MCU.
Well, yeah. And then this was back before superhero movies were even a big deal. And those are still badass.
Right.
So it's one of those things that people kind of overlook and forget that, yeah, that kind of already happened before, but okay.
Right. Now, do you think there's place for this? When you're talking about this, one of the really big examples, specifically of what you're talking about that sticks out in my head, is the new reboot of Ghostbusters. Not the newest Ghostbusters that came out, but the one with the all-female cast.
The 2016 one.
Right. What were your thoughts on that? Now, I will tell you myself, my son was a big Ghostbusters fan of the original trilogy. And so when the one with the all females came out, my son still wanted to go see it. He got dressed up in his Ghostbusters costume and we went down there, and it didn't make a difference to him whether it was men or women. I feel like a lot of that was, something in the media, you know what I mean? The kids themselves didn't seem to really care. They just wanted to go watch a fun action movie. But it was a lot of these adults or maybe people in the media who were there for the original that are saying that, oh, you raped my childhood.
So doubling back real quick, there was only 2 Ghostbusters movies before that, right?
Right. There was the 2 with Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you said a trilogy at first. I was like, wait, did I miss one?
I apologize. Yeah, no. The third one was the latest one that just came out. That was part of Hello,
yes,
Chris.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're on
my bad.
So So the fun thing is that they took something that again was from the 80s, early 90s, like Ghostbusters, which was a huge phenomenon. I remember that being so huge as a kid. There was a cartoon, there was action figures, we had the Slimer high C drinks and whatnot. Like, it was a big deal. They were as much a pop culture as, like, say, The Simpsons were at some point. Maybe not to that extent. Simpsons has always been kind of this big broad thing, but yeah, I think when the new movie came out, it didn't seem like it made itself like it was part of that universe. It was trying to be like this is a reimagining of what we would do if the Ghostbusters were all females. And I don't think there's anything wrong with making them all females. I think what they did was that they lost what made those first ones funny or special to begin with. It was the character dynamics that they all played with each other. Between Rick Moranis's like nerdy sidekick guy and even their receptionist. She was like a little firecracker smartass in her own right.
Annie
and they tried to flip it on its head by having Chris Helmsworth as like the dumb receptionist, but they just played him off as this like dumb guy. And that was the joke, was, oh, he's pretty, so he's dumb. And I think that plays into a bad stereotype already. And then there was a lot of like crass fart humor, which you don't see that as much in the originals either. We had somewhat of a more structured dynamic where I was a much bigger fan of the second one for some reason than the first one, maybe just because that was more when I was like older, and I think I may have seen that in theaters. I forget. Time's clear. But I love the whole dynamic of the ooze and how that was this receptor to either positive or negative energy, and how that correlated into the appearance of the ghosts and the main villain. And there was this nice structured storyline that really played well. Whereas a lot of movies today, they seem to be like really stuck in the formula of what worked in the 90s, what worked in the 80s. And so they literally piece by piece just replicate that. And when you've seen the same movie 85 times, it's no longer fresh. And I think that really stems down to why a lot of these movies aren't working, is that you can't just like say, we're going to take the exact same structure, but we're going to put these ideological, politics into it, and it's just going to work. It doesn't automatically give you a win.
I think Star Wars was a really big example of trying to duplicate what was the magic in the first one, trying to go with all this fanfare and just kind of flopping on their face because they didn't bring anything original to the board.
Well, and that's the same thing that a lot of the same people that have critiqued like Ghostbusters or several other movies now, they said the same thing, that the first reboot of this new trilogy, almost cut for cut, blow for blow in the storyline. It's the same freaking story, just with the new generation. And that's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I went and saw that in theaters and I enjoyed it thoroughly. But as soon as people kind of pointed out, like, oh, so notice how it starts the same way. It's a droid that gets taken to this desert area with this orphan who now is put into this big galactic war thing. Oh, and there's the Millennium Falcon. And oh, there's Han Solo. Like, yeah, you kind of just like carbon copied that one as much as you could. And I think I even caught that while watching it, when as soon as like the Star Destroyer or whatever the new Death Planet Ray thing was,
Star
like,
Killer.
Oh, so it's just another Death Star. But this time it's a planet. It's not the size of a moon. It's a whole fucking planet, and it sucks up the energy of a star. But it does the same thing. So
exactly. Can you think of other movies recently, and when I say recently, maybe in the last 5, 6, 7 years or so, that have kind of gone a little bit too overboard? I know even when we were talking about, the theme for tonight's show was is stay woke, go broke, and even in The Last Jedi, there was a lot of criticism about the lesbians that were in that movie. I didn't even know if you remember there being. That's how. And this is where I feel like there's kind of
lesbians.
Right, exactly. There's one scene right at the end where two women are kissing, and that was supposed to be like a really big deal about them being inclusive, but it felt really shoehorned in there to me. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, it's kind of like the Beauty and the Beast reboot where, oh, they're going to have the first openly gay character with LeFou. And then what do we get? Him dancing with a guy for 3 seconds at the end of the movie?
Right.
Yeah, they kind of sprinkled it in the sense, like, I got it when they made those announcements, and then I watched it with his just, like, sassy attitude. But, again, that just played into stereotypes. And it wasn't like, you know, oh, you're never going to find the right girl, are you, LeFou? Well, of course not, Gaston. You should know that I'm an openly gay man. I want to suck your dick. Like,
right.
None of that played into it. And even that movie, oh, God, I could go on and on. Beauty and the Beast pissed me off.
Really?
Beauty and the Beast pissed me off so fucking much.
We're talking about the live action version, right?
Yes. First of all, Disney, stop with the fucking live action movies. Like, you can do Little Mermaid because I love that one, and I'm totally down for that one.
Right.
But aside of that, like, bitch, just make something fucking new. Like Encanto, so much more entertaining than any of these live boot remakes.
Right.
Especially like Aladdin, terrible. Aladdin was fucking terrible.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen any of the live action remakes. I just kind of boycotted all of them.
Just don't. Like, okay, I will back up a little bit. I did enjoy Maleficent. I think that was like really the first one, technically, of sorts. I don't know. Like, maybe Snow White and the Huntsman was, but like I never really felt like that was a Disney entity.
Yeah, but even Maleficent wasn't like Snow White. It was a new take. It was a different angle on an old
it's more
story.
like a take like Wicked was.
Right.
Like, I always looked at Maleficent like Disney's version of Wicked, of like, hey, we're going to do the same thing that they did with Wizard of Oz, but with Sleeping Beauty. And to that extent, it did work because it changed the story. It gave us a different perspective and a different narrative. They did go a little crazy with the sequel. I'm not going to lie. Like, they were trying to set it up for some like big trifecta end all world all thing. But like, even that story was really sloppy because as soon as you start to think about it and start poking holes in, it's like, well, wait, if they didn't know about this substance first, then why was it such a big deal here? And if you could, I forget. I just remember walking out of that going like, what the fuck was the point of all of this buildup when, oh, well, we could just use this now.
Right.
Okay. But like the Jungle Book one was decent. I'm not going to lie. I found that one at least fun. But like Aladdin, I got 10 minutes into that and I had to turn it off. I was like, I would just rather watch the original. I'd rather watch the original animated film because A, it's just more entertaining. B, it's got better character work into it. You know, and then like with Beauty and the Beast, again, what pisses me off about that one, I'd done the stage show with with Missouri Street Theater. I played the Beast. I built my own costume for that one. It was like one of the prerequisites of me getting that role. I was the one that said, can I please make my own costume? Because latex does not stick to this. I sweat it off. But the show is so beautifully written. The stage production of Beauty and the Beast has like 5-6 more songs thrown into it than the movie does. Right. A lot of which are Belle. Home. Go listen to it now if you haven't heard it. It's friggin' beautiful. Cut from the movie. Why? Because Emma Watson or Stone, I forget what her name is, Hermione, she can't sing. That girl could not hold a note to save her soul, and that's why they just auto-tuned her in to what Belle already had scripted, and then completely changed the dynamic of her character because reasons. But the thing that really irks me is that the Beast already had a really, really solid song in the stage show, and it's called If I Can't Love Her. It's beautiful. It's the way that the first act ends. It's this gorgeous, you know, ballad that he does about how he loves her, but he realizes that if he can't have her love him back, then he needs to let her go be free. And they cut that from the movie and replaced it with that Forevermore nonsense so they could get an Oscar nomination for Best Original Score. That's the only reason they did it. You can't convince me of anything other than that because it's a terrible fucking song. If you compare the two side by side, Forevermore is just this graveling amateur. It's an amateur hour attempt at rewriting what If I Can't Love Her already did better.
So with these remakes, do you think that is just kind of Disney doing a cash grab on things that they know are going to make them money, or do you feel that are they going along with that go woke stay broke kind of thing with these new
I I
live
think
action
what
movies?
I think what it is that people are, as far as the stay woke go broke thing, people are so quick to judge the past without the context of what it was like, that they want to change it. They want to harp on the nostalgia. They want to bring back something and then fix all of the errors. Kind of like, oh, what happened with Belle's mother? She died of the plague. Like, did we need to know that? No.
Right.
Same thing with like the Beast and his beggar. Did we need to know that he had some abusive dickhead of a father? Not really. That wasn't necessary for us to get the storyline, which is supposed to be about seeing things beyond what's in front of you. It's about not being shallow.
Right.
So I think that they kind of they miss the point of what the purpose of telling the story is, and they then shoehorn and force in a lot of these things that they think are going to appease the current kids because of what they're talking about, rather than creating something that organically ties those stories into it.
Right.
I know you mentioned the Eternals last time we were talking, and again, no idea that they changed the gender on some of those characters because I just wasn't familiar enough with the storyline.
Right.
And I actually did enjoy that movie. I cried a number of times. Me and my partner both did.
Right.
Loved Angelina Jolie. She was awesome. I think the one downfall though is when you have so many characters thrown in together, we're not given enough time to really understand them. Like I think the Eternals would have worked so much better as a TV show or like a Netflix miniseries.
Right.
Something that would have been able to like stretch us out and get to know those characters for like 10 hours versus the 2.5, 3.
Right.
And then the other thing that they're really failing on these days is giving us good, proper villains. It's more about this twist villain or just not having a villain and it being like some other aspect of things. Again, Encanto's a good one right now because the real true villain of the story is generational trauma. And that's something that every single millennial has taken from that. Like they go, wow. Like, especially a lot of my good friends and coworkers, especially the ones in the Latino families, they're like, yeah, that hit me hard because we know exactly what that's about. We know exactly what that feels like. And I remember watching the whole damn thing going, God damn, these people are really just shitty towards Mirabelle. Right. And why? Because she doesn't have a fucking power? Like, Abuela, fix your goddamn attitude. Like, so I'm glad that, I think that that's a movie that does it right. That's a movie that's done it in an organic, cultural way that has actually given a lot of people that, oh, that's me on screen. Like, I've seen so many memes about, the little kid that's like, oh my God, Antonio's me, or oh my God, Camilo's me, or oh my God, I'm the middle child. Like, that's something that people can relate to. And you know why? Because it's organic. Right. It's something that fits to it. And then they did the same thing with everything else about that movie by putting it in Cuba and making everything or was it Cuba or Colombia?
I haven't seen it myself yet.
Do yourself a favor. It's adorable.
Yeah.
It's adorable. I since I've watched it on Christmas, cannot get We Don't Talk About Bruno stuck out of my head. That song is so fucking brilliant. And I'm not even like one of the biggest Lin-Manuel Miranda fans. I feel like he's getting a little played out right now, but that's still a brilliant song. He still does a lot of great stuff. I just would like to see some other people as well. Right. He ain't no Howard Ashman.
So you know what, and we'll come back a little bit, but you've actually brought up a different idea in my head, and maybe this could be a whole different show, a whole topic on its own, but I want to touch on it here while we're here. Do you feel like Disney does a good job of cultural appreciation or appropriation?
Okay, you completely broke up on me on that. I did not hear a single word.
Sorry about that. Do you think Disney does a good job of cultural appreciation or cultural appropriation? Do you feel like that they're bringing light to many different cultures, or they're taking advantage of these cultures?
I think it's a little bit of both. And that's to say that like things like Moana and Encanto again have done a really good job of capturing aspects of those cultures and giving them proper appreciation. I do think that they are, to some extent, going to continue to take advantage of it because it's going to make them more money. But
Right.
I do think that it's not as bad as other examples of it. Yeah. Back in the day, it was a lot worse.
Right.
It's certainly not like the crows from Dumbo. That's something that's like so abhorrently bad that they actually left it out of their live reboot entirely,
Right.
which
Right.
is which is kind of ironic because as a kid, I didn't know any better. I didn't know anything about what Jim Crow was. I
Right.
just knew that I really liked that song. But understanding the historical context of it now, it's just like, oh shit, they really did that. Like, no wonder
Right.
they're turning Splash Mountain into Princess and the Frog Ride. Yeah, do that, please do
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
Um,
Now, where do you think the lines are drawn there? Because some people will say, and this goes back to again, we're not trying to be political. This is not a left or a right thing, but
no,
for example, when statues were being torn down in this country, and people were saying, some people were saying, well, this is part of our culture, this is part of our heritage, and then you have other people on the other side that are saying, but your heritage is disrespectful to my heritage. It brings up moments of trauma and in my family. Where do you think that line is drawn? Do you think I know, like, for example, another thing that's a big topic right now is what do they call it, oh god, what is it, in schools where it's supposedly teaching history, but it's like a new
critical
name.
race theory.
Right, critical race theory. They were talking about in Germany, like, you know, they talk about it there. They talk about their Nazi regime so that it does not happen again.
Yes,
Um,
and you know what else they did? They don't put monuments up
right,
celebrating the Nazis. Yeah, they don't even let you have the flag there. Like all of that shit belongs in a museum to understand and learn from history.
right,
So I think for me that line definitely is drawn at if your heritage is about the Confederacy, which again was a bunch of traitors to the nation who started the fight because they wanted to keep slaves. Why the fuck are you proud of that? What
right,
what what is there to be? Oh, my great grandpappy fought and died in the Civil War. Good. I'm glad that your traitor ass fucking family has left your bum hick ass in Mississippi to
right.
feel proud about your traitorism to your own country. I find that interesting. I mean, that's the interesting thing also about the neo Nazis and the KKK people. How dare you call yourself a patriot if you're going to wave a Confederate flag and a Nazi flag? Two losers, mind you.
Right.
Like, talking about, and they're the people that look at us like, hey, you lost, get over it. Really, bitch, lead the way. Lead the fucking way.
Right.
When 2020 happened, the same people that were so happy in 2016 suddenly threw the biggest fucking tantrum I've ever seen. It's like, you can't follow your own talking points. Like,
Right.
you lost, get over it. And
But
no, instead we're going to storm the Capitol and again be traitors. Like, I don't get that.
Do you think anything is lost by that though? So, for example, I'm by no means am I condoning slavery or racism or anything like that. But by taking these little bits out of the movie, there's that expression, if we don't look at history, we're doomed to repeat it, right? If we don't know that these things happen, do you think these younger generations will make the mistakes that the previous generations made?
I think that currently the generation right now is already making those mistakes because they're not able to put it onto a level field of what constitutes right and wrong. For me, that's a very easy way to answer because granted, right and wrong is not such a black and white matter, like not to pun on anything like that. There's a lot of variance of gray on what is constituting a right and wrong decision. We all tell little white lies. We all can understand circumstances. For me, what makes the difference of right and wrong is if you take advantage of or harm somebody against their will, then it is wrong. So people who are very cutthroat and get people locked into these contracts that they know are going to screw them over. you know damn well that that's wrong when you do it because you're taking advantage of them and they don't know that. At the
Right.
same time, someone who's into like bondage and kinky stuff and wants to get slapped around because that gets their jollies off. That's not wrong, even though they're getting hurt because they are giving consent to that.
Consent.
That's the difference. And the current day ideology, again, I'm starting to see this kind of get a pushback now, again, from like comedians like Bill Maher or Dave Chappelle, where it's like you can't ask to be part of the table, and then as soon as it's like about you, oh well, no, now it's off topic. You can make fun of everybody else, but you can't make fun of me. Well, no, that's not equality at that point.
Right.
And again, a lot of kids now it's so tough to talk about, only for the fact that, like, I know I get backlash over this. This is why, again, people have pushed me out of my own little arenas itself. It's like, you're not allowed to talk about these things.
Right.
My whole point is that everybody should, if you have freedom of speech, be able to discuss these things without it being like no, you're not allowed to have that thought and get shut down.
Right.
So many people have told me when I have online discourse with people, that I am not allowed to have that opinion because of the fact that I am a cis white male. And I just find that so hypocritical. You're going to condemn me over my gender, my sex, and my ethnicity in the pursuit of not being condemned on those three things for yourself. How is that not just the same thing, but under a different flag?
Right.
You cannot make things better by being hypocritical. So if you can't follow your own rules, well, then I guess you're not really following the rules. You're just making it better for yourself, which then in turn just means that we're repeating the cycle, but under a different banner.
Right. I 100% agree with you. And, I personally, I'm a fan of looking at pop culture in general and just seeing how trends change over time. And personally, what I've noticed is it seems like every 20 years we kind of go back, but every 40 years is a major flip in ideology, right? So and I think this has to do with the fact that, like, for instance, right now you were talking about the resurgence of things that were coming up from like the 80s and the 2000s, right? Well, that's because 20 years ago when we were young, those are the things that we're into. And now that we're coming into our adulthood, the different marketers, they want to go back and revisit those things because they know they made money from you the first time on it. Let's make money from you again with a new G.I. Joe reboot or He-Man or, whatever the popular thing, Ninja Turtles, whatever the popular thing is.
Again, we don't need to have rehashes of things that were already good. We need new things that are also good. Kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I cannot profess my love enough for that damn show because of just, again, how many good lessons it teaches kids, how it really does engage in like world conflicts, even like what we've been through today. I mean, again, I was in high school when 9/11 happened, and it's scary to think that there was 20 more years of war after that incident. I mean, World War I and II both didn't take that fucking long.
Right.
I think collectively, if you combine those two, if I'm not mistaken, like, we have a serious problem to look at as far as like the military industry, which again, Avatar totally talks about in a digestible way for kids to understand. And even in the third season of that, like, they go to a school and they see how brainwashed kids are. As far as like the whole critical race theory thing, like, we just need to rebrand that as teaching the truth of history. I don't know why we got to teach people as like a sugar-coated, watered-down version of it. Like, oh, Columbus was a hero. Oh, the Pilgrims and the Indians were friends. They weren't.
Right.
I mean, those things those are not factually true. And I felt betrayed when I went to college going, why am I learning all about how fucked up things were now? You could have taught me that like 10 years ago.
Right.
Why did you grade me on something that was clearly wrong? Like, you made me repeat wrong facts for a grade. But anywho, okay, so a good example of another show that does have the inclusivity that does have the diversity and doesn't feel forced or inorganic and works. Have you ever seen The Dragon Prince?
I have not.
Oh my god. So it's on Netflix. I believe it has 3 seasons. It might be 4. Thank you. Both World Wars lasted 10 years total in time. Yeah, no, exactly. We need to get the fuck out of there. But anywho, Dragon Prince is great because it has all of those things. There's even one of the most badass characters on this, and this is a couple years before Eternals, obviously. That was Death. It's like one of the main characters, like Ants, but she's also like the military commander of their forces, and she's just this badass bitch that has like a massive shield that like doubles the sword. Right. And she has like an interpreter who's like her second in command that will like say whatever she's signing at the time, but she does do full sign language throughout with her character. Pretty certain that she's also a lesbian, and they don't just shoehorn that in at the last second. It's like kind of a given relationship between her and this other character later on. There's even another country that does have 2 queens that have a small daughter together. The main character, you know, in this show, his younger brother, his father is black and is the king of that nation, and he as the stepbrother, you know, doesn't really have any entitlement. His younger brother has to take over the throne when his father's killed. Spoiler alert, that happens in the first episode. So okay. But it's another one of those really good stories that talks more about how important it is to come together as people and to understand each other and to try to remove the conflict by finding common ground and finding common goals and working together.
Right.
And those need to be the more important messages. Not just like what do I see on screen, but how does it brighten and make our lives better in a today's society.
Right. And let me ask you specifically, we had brought up, we were talking a moment ago about the Eternals. And interestingly, Eternals just came out on Disney Plus this week. So since our last conversation, I've actually went back and watched it a couple more times because I had watched it in the theater and I was like, oh, this is okay. But upon sitting down and rewatching a couple times, I really got into it a lot more than I did that first time. How, as a gay man, how do you feel like Bastos' relationship? Do you feel like gay people are were well represented in that movie, or did it feel forced to you, or would you like to see more of that type of example or less of that type of example?
I mean, again, we didn't get in a lot of time to really get to know many of the characters at all, except for maybe Cersei and her guy.
Yeah,
who just seemed like, you know, Superman but twist villain. So I mean, I was happy to see that. Hey, at least it's there. It does feel slightly like virtue signaling, but at least there's a good hard honest try. I mean, right. he was an interesting enough character. He just didn't get enough time. Again, that movie has plenty of plot holes. Again, that you could watch any other YouTube channel and talk about. I will say that Luca, as a Disney film, had a fun review that talked about how it's really gay, but it's very well concealed.
Mm-hmm.
And then went on in a multitude of reasons as to why it was so gay. And it's adorable watching that now because it's like, oh yeah, I could totally see that. And I think that's what I think the gay community is really craving, or the trans community is really craving at this point, is that we want to see a story that's about that, but not where it's so niched or not where it's like you're only going to find this in this current area, or it's an LGBT movie. It's not to say that there aren't gay films out there. Like there's tons of them. Right. I'm not just talking about the adult features that you find on Pornhub. Right. I just watched. I don't know if I mentioned it last time. I just watched a movie called Edge of 17 that was made in 1998, and it was like the autobiographical tale, I'm guessing, of the director. But so many scenes in that movie, I firsthand related to, because that's exactly what it's like. Like any person that has come out of the closet and wants to like relive some of that awkwardness and knows that that's totally normal. Go watch that movie right now. Netflix.
Right.
It's on Netflix.
Right.
But there's also like other crass comedies out there. Like there's one called Nine Dead Gay Guys. It's a British film. I forget when they made it, but it is a total ridiculous romp about this man who finds his like best friend in a gay district sucking dick to pay rent, but he's not gay. And then like throughout the entire story of the community, like one of these queens died, and like her boyfriend is like looking for a new partner, but they have to pass like the 2 Red Bull can challenge. Right. So like their dick has to be as big and as thick as 2 Red Bull cans stacked on top of each other. And everyone's like after this guy because he's like, I guess, got money hidden in his bed or something. And so throughout the entire movie, like all of these crazy shenanigans abound. There's a bunch of random ass characters, and they end up totaling 9 deaths throughout the movie. Right. But it's a weird, campy watch. Like, just go watch it. Or like The Birdcage. Like, that's a great movie. Go watch it.
So I think about, and this is slightly different, but I think about one of my favorite directors right now is Peele from Keenan and Peele. He did the movies Us, and he did Get Out. And what I love,
awesome,
fantastic movies. What I loved about those movies, though, that I didn't even catch until after, it was so subtle, was that, you know, like, first off, to see a Black horror movie is not very common. But what I loved about those movies was they were Black stories without being pushed in your face, right? This wasn't a story about us being Black. We just happen to be Black characters that are going through these crazy situations. And so I really appreciate that they can have the inclusivity of the stories and tell all different kinds of stories, but not necessarily, it's not a movie about being Black, right? It's just that the characters happen to be Black.
Well, yeah, it's not what 13 Years a Slave. It's more of a modern take, and both of those movies do have both of those movies do have some social commentary kind of layered into them,
right?
And done so very well. And I'm really looking forward to more of the movies that he's going to produce, just because I think he has found a nice medium to really get that out there and make good movies. Again, what's great about those movies? They're original stories.
Right.
It's not something that's been done already. It's not just a Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but now we have this main character.
Right.
It's a new story. It's a new story, and it's very well written. It's very gripping. It brings you in, and that's the thing. People got to thread that needle in storytelling. That the number one thing you have to do is tell the story.
Right.
So it needs to be more about that, and then if you want to layer in those other things, do so, but do it in a subtextual way.
Right. That's what those movies did so well, was there were deeper themes, there were deeper topics, but it wasn't so blatantly in your face that that's all you got out of it. You had a good time watching a horror movie or a psychological thriller, and then you go back and think about it and realize how many different layers there were to that movie.
Oh yeah, and I will say I loved the advertising for Us in particular, because of the fact that I thought the entire movie was going to take place in that house. Right. I thought the entire film was just going to be that one family and that one set of doppelgangers, and then 30 minutes into it, it full on flips on that, and it's like, oh no, it's not. Oh, it's a lot bigger than that. So I think that's also very clever. That's the other thing I would say. The big thing to Hollywood is don't show us everything in your trailer. Quarantine's one of those movies that unfortunately really screwed the pooch, because they showed us the very last shot in the trailer.
Right.
And that was still a good movie, but the better one is the original one, which is from Spain, called Record. So yeah, that's another one of those Hollywood reboots. That, if anything, that could come across as the cultural appropriation versus appreciation, is taking movies from foreign countries and then just remaking them American style. That's the appropriation. It's like The Ring or The Grudge. we didn't have to do that. You could have just shown us the original ones. Like great movies that I would totally recommend people right now. Train to Busan. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
Freaking phenomenal.
Right.
Squid Game did another one. We just got to see a Korean-made show that just took everyone by storm. And why? Because it's a good original story.
Right.
And it still has all that social commentary in there, had all of that shit in there. But it was done in a way that wasn't just like, oh, see, do you see the thing that we're trying to get you to focus on? Like, it wasn't done that way. It was done in a clever manner.
And interestingly, too, we've actually had 2 actors from Squid Game on our show. And
wow.
John Michael, who was VIP number 1, he lives in South Korea, and he was telling me, which I was completely unaware of, because I had brought up the same thing about how Americans rehash all these movies from other countries. But he was like, yeah, everybody does that. And he's like, do you know how many American shows have been redone into a South Korean flavor and repackaged over there? So yeah, I used to be completely against that until I found out that was just a very industry standard thing, was to steal movies from all over and repackage them into your own country.
Oh, I mean, you see that all the time. We actually
The
have
Office is a
go to like well, yeah, there's a lot of TV shows especially like that, but we'll go to, what is it, like Big Lots, and look for like the dollar movie bin, and you see all of the like terrible ripoffs. Like there's like the Frozen Princess like trying to rip off Frozen, but it's like the Ice Queen or whatever. Right. We've also picked up a couple of those, and we'll just like play them and like live watch it and give people her responses like, oh wow, that was really terrible. Like it's like Sharknado but worse.
Right.
And it's weird because people paid good money to make those films. Like I think we found one that was like the Kyber Cave or something. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it had the one actor that played the android from the Aliens franchise in the movie, and I could tell that they spent the entire budget getting him in the movie.
Right.
Either that or he's the one that made it. I'm not certain, but it was just a terrible film. Like the sets are god awful. The acting was really bad. Right. Really bad CG, the works. It's one of those things that it's like it's trying to be so bad that it's good, but it failed in both departments.
There's a very interesting, if you ever get a chance to watch it, I don't know if you're into MatPat on YouTube, but he has a film theory and food theory channels. Anyways,
I love film theory.
He talks about why so many video game movies are so terrible. And one of his things, I didn't even realize it, but I guess there was a loophole in a German law or something that was saying that in the case of making movies, if you were making movies, you were allowed to take a certain amount of losses or something like that. So a German film company just went in and started buying up all these movie rights or video game rights, and they had no care whatsoever about the video games. They were just trying to get this tax loophole for making movies in Germany. So a lot of times there are motives that we don't even realize. We think it's about the movie and it has nothing to do with the movie.
Okay, so fun enough on this. What is your favorite video game based movie?
My favorite video game based movie?
Yes.
Video game based movie. Wow. Well, I know there was Assassin's Creed. Huh?
I was about to say, you could say that you hate them all. It's fine.
No, I'm just trying to think, like, there's so many movies that are based on video games, but I was trying to remember how many did I know of that were the other way? Or no, wait, how many video games are based on movies? But I'm trying to think of how many are the other way around. I can think of an Assassin's Creed.
How many movies are based off of a video game?
How many movies are based off a video game?
Well, I'm saying of the movies out there that are based off of a video game, which one do you like?
I don't know. I can't think of.
Okay, so I have.
If I had a list, I might be able to think of some. But go ahead, you tell me.
Okay, so most people will sit there and be like, I really like Silent Hill or Tomb Raider. The one for me though that beats all of them, and everyone should go watch it right now. It's Street Fighter 2, the animated movie.
Really?
Have you ever seen it?
I have not.
Okay, so there is a Street Fighter 2 movie that had Raul Julia and Jean-Claude Van Damme. That's not what I'm talking about right now.
Right. I know that one.
That movie is more like they tried but failed.
Right.
The animated movie, though, however, is absolutely stellar. First of all, the animation, awesome.
Wow.
It follows the characters and all of their multiple storylines pretty much to the T with how the video game did it. But it does it by following a few different perspectives. So you have Ryu, his journey as trying just to become a bigger fighter. So we follow him through about a good third of the film,
right?
And just who he meets along his travels. Then there's Chun-Li and Guile, who are working together with the government to try to take down Shadow Law, which of course they hint at the fact that why they hate Bison so much. But first and foremost, their duty is to try to just bring him down through the use of their governments. And then you have Ken. You have Ken and his desire to reconnect with Ryu to see how far they've grown as martial artists because of their own personal relationship. And there's so many moments in this movie where you get to see different lands. There's this really gorgeous soundtrack. A lot of the time there's these big moments where there's nobody talking and it's just the music playing, and you get this like deeper sense of these characters. And then on top of that, you get badass fight scenes.
Right.
Like you have so many people that get filtered in through, and I could tell that they were basing it off of Street Fighter 2 Turbo because it had people like Fei Long in there, T-Hawk was in there. A lot of them are cameos. Like you only see a blip of Zangief and Blanca. You only get a couple of moments with certain other characters. But hands down, one of the best action sequences you'll ever see in any friggin' movie you ever is Chun-Li and Vega. Chun-Li and Vega have this monster of a fight scene where he's sent to assassinate her. She's in her apartment, just got out of a shower. There is a little bit of nudity in the unrated version. You get to see Chun-Li's boobs. But anywho, he attacks her in the middle of her apartment, and they just go at it. And it's so well animated. It's just such a well done job. And it's one of those ones that it hints enough at all of the characters that if you played the game, you totally understand everything. And it's like, yes, they put that in there. But at the same time, if you've never ever played that game at all, you'd be like, wow, this is really interesting. And you still get all of those things of those characters. You know what their motivations are. And again, that's a great movie that has so many other characters thrown into it. But yet we spend enough time with the ones that count that it's a compelling story.
Right.
Do yourself a favor. Watch that tomorrow.
I'm gonna
watch that movie tomorrow. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube.
Hey, what's going on, Say Wong? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you over there. Say Wong saying anime OVA. I don't know if that's a show or
yes.
Okay. Hey, Don, catching in for the last 12 minutes, huh? How are you doing tonight, Don? Can you hear? I can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? Yes, we can definitely hear you. Okay, cool. Don, this is Rubik's. You guys don't know each other. Rubik's, this is Don from Dark Side Sabers.
Nice to meet you.
We were just talking about Street Fighter 2. And we were talking about video game movies adaptations that have actually been done well.
Oh, that's few and far between.
Right.
Exactly.
Do you know? Can you think of any offhand, Don?
Okay, so when I was younger, a movie adaptation of a video game, or it might have been vice versa, but it was Double Dragon. I don't know.
I remember that movie.
You remember that?
Double Dragon.
I remember it existing. I don't remember watching it.
Right. It was like one of my favorite movies as a kid, and I don't remember whether or not it was a movie that got turned into a video game or vice versa. But it was a video game first. It was a video game first. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was super awesome as a kid. Now look back, it's super cheesy, and it's like, what the hell was this? But that's how it goes in the 90s and whatever.
That's like Mario Brothers. The Mario Brothers movie is terrible.
Oh, it's so terrible, but like in all the best ways.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I can still watch again now and just be like, look at us just being so ridiculous back in the early 90s.
Exactly, yep.
And then, do you guys remember there was the He-Man movie with Dolph Lundgren?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where He-Man comes to Earth or something like that. That was a terrible, terrible movie.
Well, and that's the thing. When you take those things that aren't based in Earth and then like bring them to Earth, which is exactly what Mario Brothers did, that's where it kind of is like, what?
Yeah, like what's going on here?
Mario
What's
Brothers
cartoon? Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
You know what else was very similar to Double Dragon as a game, though? That I don't know if people remember it or not, but it was called Streets of Rage, and I loved that game.
I feel like I do remember that. Yeah. Those Contra was another one too, which was really fun too.
Contra had the up down, left right.
Yeah. You just like hold the button, just like the bullets would be flying in like a different
Right.
It was good.
So Rubik's, I wanted to go back a little bit to when we were talking about the Eternals, and we were talking about Bastos in particular, and as a gay man, how you felt that character was represented. To me, not being a gay man, it felt very shoehorned in. First off, I don't even know if that actor is a gay actor. And is that important? Like a lot of times people will say, you have this white guy playing an Egyptian actor, and why can't we just find an Egyptian actor to take that role? In the gay community, does it make a difference if a straight person plays a gay person, or vice versa? I mean,
as someone who's an actor myself that has played 3 Disney princes, and many a role myself of a straight character. No, it's called acting for a reason. Like
right.
The point. I will say that if they are turning down good gay actors for a gay character just to play them by a straight person, like that would be offensive. If a character is written with a certain ethnicity as part of their background, like say Storm, for example, from X-Men, if she was to be played by Taylor Swift, that would piss me off.
Right.
There's so much of her character that is tied to her identity. And it's one of those like things that traipses that line. Like I don't think Pose would be as good of a show if they didn't have trans actors playing trans characters. But that doesn't discredit like Jared Leto's performance in what was that movie he just did a few years back? Didn't he get an Oscar nom for it? Like Dallas Buyers Club?
Not sure.
It's the one with Matthew McConaughey. It was like a big deal. I think it's called Dallas Buyers Club, where the guy has AIDS and he's like trying to get drug treatment money to help with that. I haven't actually seen it. I do remember that he got a lot of praise for it, though, and from the snippets I saw, I was very impressed and thought that he deserves to, have some acclaim for that part. I think Jared Leto's actually a very talented actor. I don't think that the Joker was his finest performance.
No,
but I did enjoy him in House of Gucci, and they put so many prosthetics on him. Oh my God! Like I didn't realize that was him until about 45 minutes into the movie, where I was like, oh my God, that's Jared Leto, isn't it? Jesus. So I think a lot can be done with like makeup and prosthetics. As far as casting people and characters and whatnot, it's one of those touchy subjects. I happen to just notice that a lot of the times they'll rewrite every single redheaded character now as a now African-American character. We had that with MJ in the Spider-Man trilogy. Not to say I don't like Zendaya. I think she's great. Right. But I would say, like, can you go after a blonde bitch once in a while? Like, I mean, like Black Canary, she's a blonde bitch. Like, go after her. Like, right. It'd just be nice. It'd be nice to preserve my redheads a little bit, only for the fact that I always loved my redheaded characters. But again, I'm excited for the new Little Mermaid. And it's because Halle Bailey, her whole thing for Ariel is all about her voice. and that girl sings like an angel.
Right.
And that's the important part. She's a mermaid. It has nothing to do with ethnicity or identity at that point because she's a fucking magical creature.
Right. Those things don't even exist in their world.
Doesn't upset me in the slightest. And I'm really excited to see how that movie comes out. Again, it's a question of how much is Disney going to follow the stage musical or try to nuance it and make it new to fuck it up.
Right.
I heard that the only songs that Lin-Manuel Miranda did not want to touch were Sebastian's songs. And I'm like, really? Those were the only ones? Okay. But it's fine. It's fine. As long as part of your world is still gorgeous and beautiful and like everything that I know it to be, I'll be fine.
Right.
But
so do you feel like, and you too as well, Don, we were talking about earlier, or I was mentioning how it seems like everything comes back every 20 years, and every 40 years, everything flips to its complete opposite on the pendulum, right? So in fact, thinking about tonight, I actually, this morning was watching a documentary about the 2000s and what was going on in the 2000s, because that was 20 years ago from where we are now, and trying to see, where the similarities are. And, I feel like we're in that 40-year swing where everything's going completely opposite, because 20 years ago now was 9/11, and we were very in a state of cautiousness.
Yeah.
Everything was very locked down. And I feel like, I heard one YouTuber talking about part of the challenge of today is that because a lot of these millennials have, particularly in America, have grown up without a war, right? The only war we've experienced was in Afghanistan, and that was far away. And, as Americans, we rarely heard about it. He was saying that a lot of these millennials have kind of grown up where they grew up in this age where, you get a trophy just for participating. And because they didn't have any real problems, they're kind of taking things that are maybe slightly offensive to them and turning it into huge things, huge movements, where, their opinion matters more than, say, other people's opinions. Do you think we're going to be going more into that or coming out of that as we go forward in the future?
Ooh. That's interesting. Every generation is different. You know what I mean? We all have our quirks and definitely our downfalls, you know what I mean? No matter what it is, as somebody who was born in 1990, you know what I mean? Like the newer generation kind of confuses me, I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? There's a lot that I don't get, 100%. But it's their generation, man. Like I'm going to grow old. You know what I mean? You're going to grow old. We're all going to grow old, and it's theirs. It's not ours. You know what I mean? It's interesting because they can do whatever the fuck they want. You know what I mean?
Like, if anything, I'm starting to really feel like how the parents are like, "Oh God, these kids and you're crazy." It's like I'm turning into that. Like,
right, exactly. I'm 31 years old, and I can't tell you how many times I'm like, "Goddamn kids."
Your music sounds terrible.
Back in my day, the music was much better.
Well, not to say anything, but when you keep sampling shit from 20 years ago, yeah, it must have been because you're used.
We've had this conversation before too.
To comment on what I think you were saying there, though, the lack of coping mechanisms with the current generation, which is what I think you're talking about with the whole participation trophies and like any minor inconvenience, suddenly it's the end of the world.
Right.
We live in such a modern era of convenience that's what's creating that, right? Yeah. Like you have access to every single thing you could possibly need on your phone right now. Right. Do you know what 14-year-old me would have given to have the access to porn on my fucking cell phone kids do now today? Right. I related to American Pie with the static channel, okay? I had that growing up.
Yeah, so
what you doing in there? Nothing.
Flipping it back and forth.
Like, it's a different day and era. And my big thing for people to always to take into account is like, count your blessings. Count the things that you should be grateful for, because it's not until you're without those things that you're going to realize how good it was when you had them. It wasn't until I was out on my own and paying all my own bills or going to the point where, I didn't have electricity or I didn't have hot water because my roommates fucked up and didn't pay their bills. That I came to really appreciate those things. So I always say, if you had something to eat that you got to choose today, that's a blessing. If you have a roof over your head, that's a blessing. If you had access to hot water to bathe with today, that is a blessing. Right. And if you, again, have access to the world's wide web on your phone at any given time to look at all your social media, that is a blessing that people did not have 20-something years ago. I mean, I didn't have my first cell phone until I was 18, and I didn't even have good internet until probably 20. Right. And I grew up on dial-up and shit. I remember going outside and playing with my bike because there was nothing to do. Your parents monopolized the TV to watch drag races, and it was about this big. So,
well, now even on that point, we are all. Let's just say we are not the three of us of this youngest generation, but I look at so many of the movies that I grew up with and things that I grew up with, and I'm like, damn, dude, I don't even know if we could produce those things nowadays. For example. One of my favorite movies growing up was a movie called Airplane. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the movie Airplane.
Yeah.
Do you know that movie, Remakes?
You cut out on me. What movie was it?
Airplane. Nestle.
I do know. Yes.
Right. I can't imagine.
Very controversial movie nowadays. It would be. Back then, it was just a joke.
Now it's Blazing Saddles.
Oh God, no.
But again, Mel Brooks is somebody who brilliantly did comedy for his time and era because nothing was off limits. Same thing with South Park. I love everything about South Park because they follow that credo. It does not matter to them. If it's funny, if you can find something comedic about it, we're going to make fun of it.
Right.
So Tom Cruise throwing a goddamn fit because they did a whole fudge packer scene of him working in a fudge factory, packing it into boxes. Like, that's on him. Right. I didn't take offense to that, and I've been called that. So,
there's an interesting question. Why is it that certain shows like South Park? In fact, I was just watching this
South
morning.
Park, Family Guy.
Right. I was just watching Peacemaker on HBO, which is very not PC at all. He is, but I mean, that's his character. He's like that 80s douchebag kind of a guy, right? But why is it that some shows can get away with saying the most crazy, outlandish stuff? And we'll use South Park as a great example. And why is it that other shows get completely blasted for, say, not being more inclusive or making a joke about Jewish people or gay people or whatever? How come South Park can get away with it?
One, I think it's because it's been around for over 20 years. And also, again, their whole thing is nothing is off limits. When it's like it's off limits, everything can be done, and they push that boundary all the time. They're also very smart in their own political commentary that really attacks both sides equally, right? It's not like they lean one way or the other. They don't just pick on one side or the other. They find things to pick about on everybody to kind of realize, hey, y'all are acting fucking absurd right now.
Yeah, they attack everything. Yeah, they don't leave anything unturned. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like even South Park, like one of the biggest jokes is that the only black kid in school is named Token,
right?
But then he's also like the richest kid out of the entire city. Like, go figure.
Right.
It's one of those hyperboles. But yeah, I think longevity is a big factor of it. Again, a lot of the current day mindset I never heard of before 2015. I'm not going to lie. Like, I never, ever, ever, ever heard the term non-binary before then. Right. Like, if it was ever printed in something before that, I never read it. I never had any friends that identified as it. Right. And I don't have anything against non-binary people in the slightest. I just think that they need to like maybe chill the fuck out and smoke some weed sometime. But it's just, as for me, like I don't wrap so much of my identity in the things that I can't change or the things that I was born with. I think it's always good to have a better understanding about it. But again, I saw a meme just today where it's like, oh, I don't have to tell you anything. It's not my job to explain things to you. It's like, okay, well then you should just not care what I think and then fuck off. Like you can't say that you care about how I think about something, but then say, well, I don't have to tell you anything about it. I don't have to explain myself.
Go educate yourself.
Go educate yourself.
Right.
And if I'm going back to school, it's not to do gender studies. It's going to be like a teaching degree of my own, to be like a drama teacher or some shit. I would rather see people be more invested in things like drama and music and art, things that are sadly just not treasured enough within in our own communities in general. Like we totally put sports kids on a pedestal. We put a lot of physical things on a pedestal, but we don't do a lot of the creative. Which is one of the things I love about cosplay. It's one of the things I love about drag. It brings in that creative nature that it just is so missing from education today. And music especially. I think there's nothing that brings people together more than theater and music, because it needs people from all walks of life to do all of the things that are necessary to put those things together. And it creates something that's beautiful. That you can only live in that moment.
And do you guys see that this current trend, do you think it's going to get worse from here or better from here? And do you actually think it's helpful? I feel like what it is a lot of people are trying to individualize so much that it almost makes it impossible for me to meet a new stranger without feeling like, am I going to offend them by calling them the wrong thing? Or, maybe they have different titles that I don't even know exist, right? I'm an old man here. So many new groups and titles are coming up that I can't even keep up with all of them. Do you think this is going to spiral out more, or do you think it's going to start going back the other direction?
Is that correct for me or him?
Whoever. I'm
either. I think
everybody.
I think that it's going to come to a head when people actually do grow up a little bit and start to self-reflect. I think that part of why it's gotten so much traction and why there's so much animus and animosity and just constant bickering online about things is that there are certain individuals that are taking advantage of it. People who've seen this as this new thing that they could sink their teeth into, and then they exalt themselves on this pedestal of, I'm this new person that heads this community. Like there are a couple of non-binary performers out there that I don't know what they do other than just present as non-binary. And I mean, okay, is that a talent? I guess so. I don't know.
Right.
But the fact that they're like the official head figures just mind boggles me, because I'm like, what do they do? Do they write for The Onion or BuzzFeed? I mean, I'm guessing because they have plenty of content on it. But I think it's going to be one of those things that they're going to get to their late 20s and then look back and go, God, I was an annoying little shit, wasn't I? Like, it's kind of like me in my generation. God, we did Frosted Tips and Puka Shells. What the fuck were we thinking? Like,
I wonder how long
those terrible times. Okay, there's always a terrible haircut or a terrible decision, something that you look at and go, God, we did that dance. Why? Oh, because it was popular at the time. So I do think a lot of it gives people something to project onto. This new thing that oh my God, this is why nobody understands me, is because nobody understands this yet. And so they've kind of latched onto it as like, this is the reason why I wasn't like the prom king, or this is the reason why like I didn't have a lot of friends. And really it's because you ran like Naruto in middle school and everybody thought you were a nerd for it. But you know what? At the end of the day, the key thing you have to learn is to love yourself and not give a fuck about what anybody else says. Yeah. That was one of those big key things for my own discovery. Why would I care what anybody else has to say about me?
Right.
I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna dress like this whether or not somebody says, "Oh, well, men shouldn't do that." Well, right there for you, sir. Right. So I mean, I think that's the big hurdle that people need to get across. It's like finding yourself is its own journey. It's really, really hard to do. I mean, I think there's like an old Japanese proverb about this where there's like three sides to every person. There's a side that they show to the regular populace, the side that they show to people closest to them, and then the third side that nobody but themselves will ever really get to see or understand.
The true self.
Don,
we're all people on this planet. We should all respect each other. We should all not be mean-spirited. And that I think is at the core of it. But unfortunately have a lot of, again, people that the slightest inconvenience, or if you tell them no, well, Brandon grew up not, being told no by anybody. And so now he's going to throw a fucking 5-hour tantrum about it because somebody didn't say something that he wanted them to say. As far as terminology and you're not sure how to address people, my go-to is friend. Hi there, friend. How you doing, friend?
That makes sense.
What can I get you today, friend?
That's good.
Like, that's the only one I got that's completely neutral. And if you have a problem with me calling you friend, then really, what is your issue?
Good.
Right. Yeah.
Don, did you have something that you were gonna say? And I had a thought.
Well, I was just kind of curious. Like I was thinking to myself, like when that really goes out, you know what I'm saying? Because I have friends that are 29, you know what I mean, and 30 years old who are still doing the same stuff. You know what I mean? They're still into that whole thing, fighting the fight. You know what I mean? Trying to make everybody aware of all the stuff. And not that I have anything against that, obviously. You know what I mean? Again, you do whatever you want, but like the whole participation thing is like, I think it's horrible. You know what I mean? When it comes to the whole participation trophy type idea. You know what I mean? With everything that we have, it's just horrible, right? Because you need to learn how to lose in life. Like that's super important. You need to, because you're not going to win every time. You're not going to. It's just end of story. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? You need to learn how to lose, and that's just, that's part of growing up, right?
Well, and that's what develops those coping mechanisms that I think are sadly missing. A lot of people can't cope with the reality that not everything's handed to you. That life is going to be hard, regardless. It doesn't matter who you are. Life sucks. Like the world does not care.
No.
And the only thing that you can do is try to be better.
Right.
Kindness is one of those things that's completely free, and the world changes it drastically just by exhibiting it. And if more people would exhibit kindness towards other rather than condemnation because you don't agree with them, we would be in such a better place right now. We might actually have aliens talking to us because we know they exist. They've even admitted that they exist.
They have no interest in talking to us, I assure you.
No. We go to fucking America, they're going to shoot my ass. No, fuck that shit.
One of the things that you were saying that I found very interesting, and again, I think this might be because, the three of us are a little bit older, but you were talking about, and I agree with you, we all need that space in our 20s to be kind of stupid and be overly opinionated about things, right? And really stand in our our soapbox. I think where I see things slightly different is that when I was in my 20s, there wasn't like, there was the internet, but it wasn't like it is nowadays, right? Like everything I didn't go on a video and remain online somewhere, right? So if I was very opinionated, it was usually with my group of friends. It wasn't me being a social influencer who now is, has a TikTok channel with 100,000 subscribers where I can act out my own growing up in front of everybody. I think that's where it gets a little bit dangerous. And where I point to that is I have seen, and by no means am I accusing everybody of this, but I've seen people who have like TikTok channels about illnesses that are obviously faked or have not been diagnosed, right? Like, I deal with this, this symptom, and, this is why I have Tourette's or whatever, but they've never actually gone to a doctor to, to get this analyzed.
So they're like self-diagnosed is what you're saying.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of times, and too, I know that there are a lot of, gay people that are gay by nature, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are experimental, but they don't want to feel like an outcast or something like that, so that they say that they're bi or that they're gay or whatever, and maybe they're just trying things out, and then they come to themselves later and realize, okay, maybe I am gay or maybe I'm straight, but they put so much emphasis on it. I know people online that it seems like their whole personality is just sexuality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is nothing else about them. There is no meme or any other opinion that doesn't have to do with their sexuality in some way.
I shouldn't know your sexuality in the first like 5 minutes of like knowing you. I can assume, but I shouldn't know. I'd be like, "Hi, I'm Don. I'm straight." Who cares? I don't fucking care.
Right.
It's a weird thing. You know what I mean? Like, why?
Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Good.
Okay. No, I was going to say, no, it does not make up for a lack of personality.
Right.
If you have a personality of a deer tick, that's because you're not that interesting. And they have really latched onto something like this. Like, ooh, this makes me interesting. If I dye my hair a pastel color, that'll make me interesting.
Right.
But it's not a personality substitute. I think there's something to be said that living in this age of avatars, with all of these online personas, the way, like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Gaia Online. That was something I was into when I was like really young. Right. But you can create your own avatar. They do this in a lot of things. You do this with your own games. People have gotten so accustomed to being able to attribute themselves in their mind on a screen of what they want to be. Right. That now they are advocating like, oh no, that's just who I am. My avatar is who I am. So now I want to basically be an anime character. I want to live as an anime character. So I'm going to have crazy hair that's a color that doesn't exist in nature. And I'm going to be as androgynous as possible. But it's going to be the entirety of my identity. And like I said last time, like that's not how I operate. I operate that I am an artist first and foremost. My name is Anthony Allen, but I have a persona, which is Rubik's Q Arcana. I can say things that I'm a drag queen, or that I'm a bartender, or that I'm a writer, or that I'm an actor, or that I'm a singer. None of those things have anything to do about the shell that I live in, because those are a non-factor. Right. Even in my early days when I was, bi, and before I was, solely gay, people would ask me like, well, how can you like both? And it's like, well, I take all the things I like about a person and I just take gender out of that equation. It's just that simple.
Right.
And again, it's not to say that non-binary doesn't exist. I'm not here to quote that at all in the slightest. I do have a slight problem with people saying, well, because intersex people exist, therefore I can identify as that, because somehow that's the same thing. And I personally have never met anybody who's intersex. I don't think it's nearly as common as I've been told. So somebody once told me that like 1 in 50 people are intersex, and I call bullshit on that statistic.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I'm calling
so wait,
bullshit on that.
What is intersex then? Maybe I'm not understanding.
Intersex is someone that is born with sexual traits of both sexes, meaning that they might have like female genitalia but also have gonads, or that they might have the XY chromosome but they are born with a labia. It's more of an abnormality than it is like a natural thing. Like we don't just have those 3 options as a regular. But
apparently you have a fan, Anthony.
I had a good friend of mine. Hi, Victor. You do know me. Hello. Nice to see you. But again, so somebody once told me that it was like 1 in 50 people, which I just questioned that. And I, again, bartended for 15 years. I have regulars who are nurses that's what they do. They deliver babies. They've been doing it for 25 years. And I asked them, how many times have you come across an intersex child? Because normally the narrative says that, those when that happens, the doctor makes this rush decision to have the parents choose which gender they want. And then they do this corrective surgery. And that's abhorrent and barbaric and all this other stuff. And she's like, never once in my 25 years have I ever encountered that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Wow.
So it's one of those things that people like take statistics from something else and skew it.
Well, they just make them up, honestly.
Like don't exist like that. I'm just saying it's not nearly as commonplace. It exists. It's out there, but we don't have a full understanding of it because we don't see it as commonplace.
Right.
I think that's something that people can't really appropriate themselves. Again, if anything, go out there, dress however you want. I think that this is all about tearing down the gender roles and gender norms and saying that because you're a man, you have to have short hair. Fuck that. I have grown out my hair. I love my long hair. If you're a girl, you don't have to have long hair. If you want to shave your head, go for it. If you want to wear a dress, I don't care what's between your legs. Wear it. Pick a cute one. You know, but that doesn't mean that you can just go out there and be like, well, I need to be appreciated because I'm just different. Well, I'm different too. Like, everyone's different. There's nothing wrong with being different. Just be yourself and be proud of yourself. As soon as you love yourself, people are going to love you a lot more. Guaranteed.
Do you think, now that I'm thinking about it, do you think this is going to escalate more with, we've got, Zuckerberg is trying to bring on this metaverse, right? And, with the whole metaverse, have you seen the movie Ready Player One?
Yes, and I think that's exactly what the metaverse is doing, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, and I can see us being there. And really, honestly, I thought it was going to take longer, but I think it's going to be here a lot faster. And then once it gets here, I think it's going to be so all encompassing that we are going to, everybody's just going to fall in line and be in love with this new metaverse. But it does mean taking on new avatars and really getting to create your own persona online. Do you think that's going to escalate some of this individualism, or do you think that's going to then kind of chill out because everybody's doing it now?
I think it's going to escalate a lot of catfishing is what it's going to do. It's gonna present people in a way that they don't actually reflect at all in real life. So when people meet face to face, they're gonna kind of have the moment like, wait, you're so and so?
Right.
Oh, okay. Let's go back to virtual reality. I think a lot of it harkens to a lot of Black Mirror too. That show scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that totally can happen.
It's scary, yeah, exactly. It's scary because it's very possible. Like it's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm unfamiliar with Black Mirror.
Oh, you gotta watch it.
Like, are we living in a simulation? Like what
yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah, it's really weird. There's an episode where like they have like cameras in their eyes and stuff like that, and like the one woman like cheats on the guy.
Gonna happen.
That was wild. Like he was able to like watch her cheat on him. Like it was crazy. And like she ended up like.
What channel does this come on?
Well, it's on Netflix, I think.
Oh, Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can find Black Mirror on Netflix.
There's like 3 seasons, I think now, or 2 or 3 seasons.
Yes, but it started as just like a British show, and then like the 3rd season, America took it over for some reason.
Right.
They only released like 3 or 4 episodes, and they just don't even stand a chance to the other one.
Yeah.
Seasons 1 and 2 were the first episode I'm not a big fan of. It's about the prime minister like fucking a pig, but
yeah, it's very strange. Yeah,
it's very strange. I think it has a lot of commentary on like the social peer pressure aspect of things. But beyond that, like episodes like White Bear are one of my favorites. I love the Black Mirror Museum one that kind of sums up a bunch of stuff. There's a couple of nice like actually happy episodes like San Junipero. Which that one maybe I'd be down for. It kind of talks about like implanting your consciousness into a computer nodule and living in a program like after you die, so that way you can still kind of experience things and be with your loved ones, but like obviously you're no longer in a rest home.
There was a movie like that with Johnny Depp. I think it was called like Transcendence or something. Yes. Where like he was a scientist and he like downloaded his brain into a computer and like it was pretty crazy. It was really awesome actually. But that's
one of the other Black Mirror episodes. It's scary as shit. It's one where bees had gone like extinct, and so they made like little mini robot bees to pollinate things, and someone was able to hijack that system and put in people's identities into it. And cause the bee drones to like seek these people out and kill them in the most painful way possible. That is in itself like its own like thriller of a movie. And that's another one I think about all the time. Like, bees are so important and they are dying out left and right.
Right.
When are we going to get to the point where either we're having to pollinate things by hands or we're going to make machines that do it for us?
Right. I just saw, I put out a meme like 3 days ago that was like, it was called the carbon tree or something like that, but apparently it was like this big machine that sucks in all the carbon dioxide, and then converts it into oxygen or whatever.
Yes.
And it just got me like when I saw this machine, the first thing I envisioned was just whole freeways being lined with these things, you know what I mean? And these technological changes that we're going to start to see happening, like, interestingly, and maybe this isn't a topic for a different show, but there's a lot of things that were happening during the pandemic. Now, I'm not going to be conspiracy theorist and say it's not, COVID's not real or anything like that. I just thought it was very interesting how we started seeing some world shifts starting to happen right around the whole COVID thing. Like, for instance, all of a sudden there was a coin shortage, right? Like all of a sudden nobody had coins in the whole entire country.
Yeah, how the fuck did that happen?
That's what I'm saying. Like they don't all just disappear.
And so my thought was,
no, my piggy bank's in my room forever now. Like,
right? Yeah, no.
So my thought was that this is some bigger group's way of getting us to convert to a cashless system. You know what I mean?
Right.
Ezra, in fact, was just telling me that he had heard a couple of days ago, and I was like, I think it's going to take a little longer, but I think that's the direction we're going in. But he was saying that he had heard or read in an article that they were getting rid of the school system. And that was actually something I thought of when the pandemic happened, because I saw the same rollouts happening in the prison system. They're trying to get as many people as they can on ankle bracelets, because if they can get you to monitor in your own home, they no longer have to worry about your medical bills. They don't have to worry about your food, your lodging. Your family's now all taking care of that, right? Well, I started seeing that. That's what I perceived happening in the school system because of COVID, was that they were going to try to find a way to shut down all the schools. Look, if the schools can still get the same amount of money for teaching your students, but they don't have to worry about the fights, they don't have to worry about the food, they don't have to worry about it, any of that other stuff, why wouldn't they do that? You know what I mean? So, I'm starting to see a lot of like world changes that seem to have been happening in the last year or two that I feel like are going to be permanent. I feel like it's somebody setting us up to get used to this is how life is now. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was a lot about that on a recent episode of Bill Maher, I believe. It's one of the Shark Tank guys, but they were saying how when the world reopened, they projected that like 15% of the workforce wasn't going to come back, and instead it was more like 55%.
Wow.
55% of the workforce said, you know what? I've been working from home just fine. I would rather not commute. It doesn't affect my ability to do my job. We're just as efficient this way. And if you're going to sit here and tell me I have to come back and clock in and sit in your building, fuck you. I'm going to go get me another job.
Right.
And we're seeing that a lot right now. Like that's one thing that's actually good about right now is that people are waking up to the fact that money is a contrived, like imaginary concept that we've created that we put value into. We have this huge wealth inequality, which I think is the X factor that people don't pay enough attention to because they're hyper fixated on things like race relations and, historical issues that happened already. Like, again, history already happened. You can be as upset as you want about what happened in the past. The only thing you can do, though, is learn from it. You can't change it. So being upset about something that happened 50 years ago isn't going to change anything. Yeah. What we can do is make things correct the issues that we have now. We obviously have wage stagnation. We already have seen that people have lost a lot of jobs to automation, especially good paying pension jobs and things like that. People currently today don't have the ability to buy a house or a car like their parents or their grandparents did. Like my grandmother, when she bought her house, it was for $36,000.
Right.
That blows my fucking mind, because I'll be lucky if I can get something that's like half the size of her house for $400,000. But yet the minimum wage hasn't gone up that much.
Right.
Like, and God, what was it when I started the workforce? I want to say it was like almost $10 an hour. Like it was $10 an hour when I started the workforce 20 years ago, and now minimum wage is $15.
Interestingly, I just read an article a couple of days ago about how because of the pandemic right now, like used cars are going through the price of used cars are going through the roof because of all the baggage of the pandemic. They weren't selling brand new cars, and so people had to go and buy used cars. But because they were buying the used cars, the market on used cars now is almost as bad as buying a brand new car.
Which is ridiculous.
Right. So, I think it only escalates from here. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 10 or 15 years. I know we're in for major shifts in our society.
I will say that the movie Idiocracy really came to mind in 2016. I'm not going to lie. I was waiting for those Taco Bell podiums, though. I'm just saying. Get my Baja Blast over here.
It's funny. A movie like Idiocracy, can be everybody hated that movie when it came out, but now it almost has come to fruition, right? Everybody's corporate sponsored.
Well, and the movie we have right now that's like that is Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
And
my God, a lot of people such a good movie. Did you see that movie, Don?
That's it.
No, I've heard about it though. I've heard a lot about it. So
yeah. I think that parallels our time period right now. You could have all the evidence and fact in the world. You could see that comet coming right to your planet, and yet still people are going to deny that this is even happening and going on.
Fake news.
Fake news.
We got people who think the world is flat, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's my favorite one. The fact that there's still flat earthers out there. I'm just like, you can be given all of the facts. There's a fucking mathematical algorithm that I learned in geography that teaches you that the earth is goddamn round. There's a literal equation that from wherever high up you are, you will only see as far straight out until the bend of the earth gets in the way. It's a thing. It's a provable thing.
Do you think I had never really thought about this until this moment, but do you think these flat earthers and then just groups in general? For example, okay, so QAnon, you guys know, we're not going to get too left or right, but the QAnon is the right-wing group that, believes Donald Trump is going to come back into power, right? Interestingly, when I was watching the documentaries earlier today about the year 2000, they were talking about how QAnon got its start in the Tea Party, and that got its start from the second election of George Bush, where there was controversy as to whether he was actually elected or not. And that was the very birth and beginning of what
that was
now
his first election, though, right?
That was his second election. On the second one, when it came down to Jeb Bush or whatever.
See, I thought that was his election versus Al Gore.
Maybe I have it wrong. I thought it was his second one, but maybe I'm wrong.
This could be a Mandela effect thing. I remember the big contention was his first election,
right?
Because it all came down to Florida, where his brother was the governor,
okay.
And then there's the Chads, and we're not sure, and somehow it flipped to him, and that's why he won. Which again, nepotism. Are you fucking kidding me?
Right, right.
The second election, I remember, from what I recall, the Democrats just had a really wet towel of a candidate.
Right,
they really screwed the pooch with just giving it. I don't even remember his name. That's how shitty of a candidate he was. But they were also using a lot of the features of we're in the middle of this huge war that just started in Afghanistan. And I wanted to actually mention this earlier when you're talking about, 20 years ago versus today. 20 years ago when 9/11 happened, that is something that united us in a way that I have not seen since then.
Right.
If anything that we've seen in the last, 10 years or so has just been how fractured we have become and how divided we have become and how both sides are now incredibly divisive as a result, because they know that that's what makes us weaker. When we were united, that was one of those few times in American history where all of us turned and we're on the same page of you don't fuck with us.
Yeah.
We're not happy with this. We want answers. We want names. We want something done now. And we do stuff like that. And that's something that we can learn from history too. Personally speaking, because again, my mother was involved in construction my entire life. So was my grandfather. I watched a lot of those wildest police chase videos and stuff. So you'd see a building get demolished on those videos. It's hard for me to not see the World Trade Center attack as a white flag operation, similar to what they did with the sinking of the Lusitania or with the attack on Pearl Harbor. where it's these things that unite us as a front to go into war. It's false flag operation, excuse me, not white flag. False flag operations that get us united to go into battle, and they do this to us to trick us. Right. I mean, again, talking about QAnon and conspiracies and whatnot, I've never been one that's understood the physics behind the World Trade Center falling as a result of an airplane, just because that's typically not how physics work.
Right.
And that's why when we see
meant to not
demolitions, there's a reason why they're controlled demolitions, because it takes a lot of tactile control to make a building fall straight down. Otherwise, it would have just fell over, or like the top half of it would have like fell off to the side. It doesn't explain how it just completely came all down straight down in one giant column. So again, I think that the good thing that came out of that is that it united us as a country. It was this thing that we all have as this collective trauma. But as a result of that, we've gotten all of these new security features. I mean, people bitch about the masks today. I still have to take off my shoes to get on a fucking airplane.
Right.
Like, have you dealt with the TSA? They are not fun.
Right.
Long tub, sir. You need this one. Like,
and then even out of that, we had the whole Snowden trials with the monitoring of American citizens through our telephones and everything.
Facebook is totally listening to every single thing. Does not matter what we're talking about, me and my husband. As soon as we mention some kind of product or something, it pops up as an advertisement on my phone.
Right.
That shit right there is kind of scary.
Right.
It's scary, but isn't it better?
It's got 30 minutes of life left. We got to wrap this. Hey, Rubik, shut the fuck up.
Don, when you were saying that, and we're going to go ahead and get wrapped up here in a couple of minutes. But I think about that sometimes too, about how, everyone's like, oh, Facebook is monitoring me and they're going to throw me all these ads. I was like, yeah, but my life isn't that interesting. It's not like I'm some. They can monitor me all they want. They're just going to see me going to the grocery store and jerking off at night. I mean, it is not really. They might suggest a new lotion for me, but besides that, I'm not really sure.
That was my whole thing. Is that like, it's kind of weird that they're listening to you.
Gonna say,
huh?
I recommend coconut oil.
That's true. They may be listening to you. They may be like throwing you ads in your face that you're talking about and stuff. But like at the same time, I don't want an ad for something I'm not interested in anyway. You know what I mean? So by all means, if you're going to throw ads in my face, give me something that I actually care about or that I was talking about in the first place. Whatever.
Well, where does this all come down to? Like, okay, let me ask you two. Are you guys, if the government tells you next week, if you want to spend money again, you need to get a little chip, credit card chip inside the palm of your hand. And that's the way we're going to do business transactions now. We're going to get rid of cash. How do you guys feel about that?
No, because we already have cards for that.
Right.
We already have external devices to do that. Why would you need to have one implanted in you?
Well, I mean, I feel like this is the way technology is going, right? Like, they're getting it down to where all the information you have on your life is you can run through your phone now, right? You can do your all your banking through here, your communications. You can pay your bills on here. To me, the next inevitable step is getting rid of this altogether.
But I don't think it is. The reason I say that is because they need that to get us to spend money consistently. Right, they make it such a needed item, right? That if they take that away, say they put a chip in your hand, that now you could do all this stuff that you could do on a cell phone. What is that? How does that benefit them? Right, we're not buying a new chip every year. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but
the thing is, they do like what we do with cars, and you have to register a chip every year, and then hike the price on that.
Well, right, but
that's
why am I giving people ideas? Stop it! No.
But that's the difference between the benefit to a company and to a country, right? Like, yeah, I'm sure Apple phones wouldn't be happy about it if we did this, but if the country said that this is what we needed to do for national security, they're going to do it.
Except for the fact that like our country is run by the companies. So
that's a good point. That's a good point.
I think once Disney announces, like Mickey Mouse comes up, "Hi kids, chip you.
Right.
These press is only available this way.
See, you laugh about this shit, but I see this shit is coming true, man. I don't think it's too off the mark. Disney is becoming a country and an empire in and of itself. And soon there ain't going to be nothing left but China and Disney.
Yeah, I don't know how they're getting away with their bullshit because it's such a monopoly at this point. They've literally absorbed every entertainment thing. Like at some point, Disney's going to buy out Netflix.
Right.
If they haven't already.
Right.
They might have. For all I know, it's part of the same Hydra monster. I think at some point it's gonna. The other factor of history that we always need to remember, why it repeats itself, is that there's only so long that the people up at the top can continually shit on and take advantage of the people at the bottom before the people at the bottom say, you know what, fuck it, and they're just gonna take them out. They're gonna find those people and get rid of them.
I normally agree with that. The problem is that like the biggest issue I think nowadays is just division, right? We're like always divided by everything. And that's their gain, right? How are we supposed to fight back if we're all divided? Right? They put like little things in front of our face that are just like, no, you like this and you like that. So don't talk to each other. Don't agree with each other and don't like fight against us because we're not the bad guys. You guys are. You know what I mean? Like so
Yeah. Find something to hate amongst yourselves. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
Everything. It's every little fucking thing that they just want everything to like just be against each other. And it's for that reason that we'll never be able to fight back. Or say they did want us to get chips in our thing, and it was a necessary thing, right? That would be as simple as everybody just being like, "Nah, fuck you, we're not doing it." End of story, right? But how's that going to happen? No, because you're going to have some people who are saying that it's a conspiracy theory. And then the other people are going to be like, no, it's not a conspiracy theory. You guys are all idiots. You don't know what you're talking about. We should get it because we know that you're wrong. You know what I mean? And then like now your views on the subject are all skewed because of the fact that instead of actually looking at it for the subject that it is, you're looking at it for what the person next to you is saying as opposed to what it actually is.
But how did we get
that's the danger of echo chambers.
How did we get to this point? Because, and do you guys think maybe it was the invention of the internet? Was it the late 90s, early 2000s? Because, like I was watching, what's his name? Neil deGrasse Tyson. Right. And he was talking, he was talking about flat earthers, and like, how do we get to this point where misinformation starts going backwards, where we become so knowledgeable and so, we have so much intelligence, but then as a society, we start going backwards with this flat earth bullshit. You know what I mean? And
it's easier to pretend that you know something than to actually know something. So if there's some sort of information out there, right, all you got to do is say, nope, that's not wrong. And this is why. And now all of a sudden you're a fucking genius because you figured out the code. The reality is that most of the people in America are fucking morons.
I Googled something.
Okay, like exactly, like you know what I mean. They all want to know something that somebody else doesn't know, and that's just how it is. You know what I mean? So we and then they fight about it because it's like this is what we do.
Right.
We all want to be the person who knows something.
It also comes down to the fact that a lot of this last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, we'll say, we have lost those outlets that give people something that they can work together on. That benefits society. Instead, those are all stripped away, and we're now mired into you have to look at your screen all the time. We get kids addicted to looking at the screens. Like when I see parents hand their like toddler an iPhone, it makes me cringe just so much because it's like I'd really rather you give them a book or I don't know, like something like to play with, like a toy. Like I just think that people are getting so invested in screens, like that's all they do. That's all they do is they spend and I'm guilty of this too. Like I spend way too much time looking at my device or playing games because I'm just trying to like get out of reality. But that's because reality sucks so much. There's nothing else to do.
Right.
But that's also why I get involved with my theater companies. Like that's something that gets me out of that. Like I can put my device down and go work with actual human beings on something for a few hours every week, and then we get to perform at the end of the month, and it's beautiful and it's amazing. We all love each other, and oh God, I live for that. We live for that moment with the audience. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it does come down to our dependence on technology And the more that they get us more dependent on technology, the less independent we as people can be to fight against it. And again, disinformation, it's one of those double-edged swords. If you put somebody out there to fact check things and say this is not admissible for you to spread around, well, suddenly that's an infringement on freedom of speech. But at the same time, when someone's spreading misinformation, it has terrible consequences.
Right.
Because now we have a whole group of people that think that something's correct and they're absolutely wrong.
Right.
I don't know. Make it make sense. That's again why if you can't back up your argument to me, then I don't think that it's a very sound one. Again, anything that I've said that's offended somebody today, by all means, I'm a fallible human being. I'm speaking completely from my understanding of things, not quoting it as I speak the truth from on high. I'm smarter than you. I'm never going to be that person. I do not consider myself a superior to anyone by any means. I just happen to really value the critical thinking aspect. And I question things a lot just to try to know. I want to bridge those gaps. I want to know things better. So when I do get something that I'm just like, I don't know, that doesn't really make sense. And if somebody isn't willing to answer me on those things for whatever reason, I'll go out and I do my own research. And then I fact check that research. And then I kind of couple it between this study and this study and kind of see find that middle ground of okay, these things are true and these things are very clearly false. I mean, for me, as far as flat earthers, I can look at the sky and see that the earth is goddamn round. But that's just me. That and everything, including atoms, is made in circles. So go figure.
Right.
Which has billions and billions of little tiny molecules that are circles.
Protons, all right. Well, we have been all over the place tonight.
Yes,
I love these discussions, but the only thing about these discussions, and I think this is going to end up being a segment, but I want to make sure that I feel like we're not just talking and just kind of leaving things out there. Are there things that can be done? Is there a wrap up or some final thought that you have about, and the topic that we started off on, and you can go with anything that we've talked tonight, but we started off at go woke, get broke, and what that's doing. But with any of the things for tonight, is there any takeaway you want to leave people with?
Absolutely. If you want stories that represent you and your background, it's imperative that you go out and write those stories and get those things out there. Don't let somebody else behind a desk in a CEO position write it for you.
Excellent.
Don't let people assume, okay, well, as long as I give them what they want, I can do whatever I want and it's going to work.
Right.
It's not. That's the difference between, again, Ghostbusters versus Us. Us was something that was clearly written well, and Ghostbusters 2016 unfortunately wasn't. And always love each other. That's the other thing. If love is love is love is love, then hate is hate is hate is hate. You cannot win the battle for love by hating your opponent so much. You have to come to some middle ground. You have to find some common understanding, and then you might actually find something that you go, oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that's why you felt this way.
Right.
That's my hot take on it. Go ahead.
Right. Don?
I mean, basically it was covered the same way, just stop fighting each other about every little thing, you know what I mean? And just you know what I mean? If like you said, hate is hate. It doesn't matter what your stance or your opinion is, you know what I mean? It's all the same. You know what I mean? If you beat somebody down because you freaking hate what they stand for, whatever that thing is, you've still done something wrong. You know what I mean? You still, it's just bad. There's no reason to hate each other, and you know what I mean? You just got to love each other and just be nicer to each other.
Right. All right.
Do an act of kindness tomorrow. Do 5 acts of kindness this week. If you see somebody coming behind you, open the fucking door for them. If there's an old lady on the bus, give her your goddamn seat. Not that anybody fucking rides the bus anymore, but I've seen those little blurbs, the little commercials, building better communities, sponsorship, da 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 da, and they always have some random ass country song. But those are true commercials. They're cute.
Right.
Gratitude.
I think for myself, This one's a little tougher. I would say that I think that we all need to kind of look within ourselves and try not to be. If you get offended by something, ask yourself, why am I offended? And is it something really worth being offended, right? Like, so for instance, I have plenty of friends that are black, and if they make comments about white people do this, it doesn't bother me because I know I'm not the person that they're talking about. You know what I mean? So I think
you're white.
Right. So, I think, we have to do a little more job of not being so offended at everything. The other thing that I see as a problem is people getting offended for other people. Like, oh, you shouldn't say that. My Hispanic friend would really hate that if you said that. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead and be offended if it's something that bothers you on a personal level, and let the other person know why. And maybe there's a valid reason that they shouldn't do that thing. But, sometimes I think we as individuals are just a little too oversensitive.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, coping mechanisms. It's a thing.
Coping mechanism. Totally right. All right. Well,
weed. Okay.
Beautiful thing about being in California. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. We were at about an hour and 50, so this actually ran a lot longer than I expected.
Shocker!
Thank you, Ezra, for being backstage and doing the directing work and probably cursing at me the whole time. Dawn, we appreciate you coming on and bringing your perspective.
Absolutely.
And Rubix, thank you, Rubix, for being on tonight, especially last minute. We gave you a call up and decided to see if you were free with us.
Anytime. I mean, next time I might not do quite this look, but we'll see.
Right. Well, we're on every Friday.
I'll come on as Anthony sometime. Just dressed like the Peter Parker from the Into the Spider-Verse, the old fat one.
Yeah, this has been a good show, and I'll probably set up a page so that we can be a little more prepared for next week's show. Apparently, like I said, we have to do the title of the show in order to send the links out. So we'll probably come up with next week's show. We'll get together in the next couple of days online and figure out what our topic is, so that we all have a few days to think about the topic a little bit before coming online here.
Okay.
How's that sound?
That sounds great. And again, apologies if it got a little too political.
You might just end up being
traits in that line.
Well,
wasn't the goal.
But it's really difficult a lot of times because these whether we want them to be political or not, they have been politicized in the national conscience. So whereas you and I may be trying to have an adult conversation about something that happens to step on political terms, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're being political or we're advocating for the right side or the left side. We're just simply stating, what views are out there and what people exist. Because everybody has to be a part of this conversation. Really, I need to find somebody who's like exact opposite, like Fox News anchor kind of person for this show. We could be like the View for nerds.
Again, anytime you want to have a whole TED talk about like movies, video games, comic books, or whatever on that, I'm down for that too.
Beautiful. Well, we will come up with another topic as we were going through tonight. Even a couple of topics were coming to my mind that could turn into their whole little show. Maybe next week we talk about, Disney as a world empire. I don't know. We'll come up with a great topic. But I do enjoy getting to talk about these things and air some of these thoughts out. And Don, we only got to have you on for half the show this week and none of the show last week. So this whole show idea actually started with Don and I in the kitchen, just having late night conversations about being nerds and philosophy, and we're like, wow, wouldn't this be fun to turn this into a topic, where multiple people can get involved.
Next week will be a little bit better. I had some issues trying to get my camera set up and all that, so yeah.
Well, we'll get a good topic and we'll get it going. So, all I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Victor was one of our old employees, Rubik's. I had no idea that he knew who you were.
Of course, another small world thing. God damn it.
I mean, it is Solano County. It's not that damn big.
I'm stuck in Lodi, so you're fine.
I definitely want to thank the both of you for being on. Phoenix, who was here earlier, something happened with her internet line. Yeah. And I also wanted to thank our director, Ezra, for handling this backstage. But we will be here again next Friday at 9 p.m. with a brand new topic for you on Kyber Cave After Dark. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely. Anytime.
Loved having you on.